When looking at the religion of Islam, we realize that its essence is based on Tawhid, which means oneness. This is no different to non-duality. However, many Muslims themselves have taken this meaning of Tawhid or oneness to be the oneness of God, where oneness is only implied and presented as God. Whereas I am here today to try and explain to you and hopefully even show you that actually Islam itself is implying that there is only oneness. There is no other truth. All there is oneness. In other words, all there is non-duality. The multiplicity of life, the many infinite number of expressions, the different experiences, opinions, categories, all these opposing forces, genders, all of this is a manifestation from the oneness, from the only truth. And so oneness or Tawheed does not mean or indicate just the monotheistic aspect of the religion. It's actually a reality that one lives by. It's a reality that one witnesses in every day and every living moment. So in Surah Al-Ikhlas, one of the chapters of the Quran, the ayah is قُلْ هُوَ اللَّهُ أَحَدٌ. Say that God is one. And this is a chapter that every Muslim child would learn and perhaps recite during prayer. And even throughout the whole scripture or the Holy Quran itself, you see continuous indications and pointings towards the oneness of reality, the oneness of the divine, the oneness of God, the oneness of life. But somewhere down the line, upon learning the very religion of Islam, I feel like people identify with the pointings more than going towards where the pointings are leading you to. And this is something that I experienced personally. I grew up in a Muslim household and I was taught the Quran, the Hadith. I was taught all these stories of the Holy Prophet and the other Holy Prophets. I was taught the stories of the companions and the family of the Prophets. And we always refer to the literature left behind and the works left behind by the people within early Islam. And even in these literatures and these works, you can see the presence of all the pointings towards the very oneness of life, pointing towards the reality of what life really is, which is the essence of Islam itself, and that is Tawheed, oneness. But somewhere down the line, I interpreted religion mostly based on how most Muslims lived, or how most Muslims would speak about it. And that in itself is not the way Islam really is. If you bring collectively the average Muslim individual, I personally would struggle to find why this person is a Muslim aside from just being born into it and conditioned into it, and on the basis that they are following these rules. And that for me at some point in my life wasn't good enough. I wanted to dig deeper. I did, however, understand the beautiful actions that the Prophet would have in the stories. There is one story where there was the Prophet's neighbor who would always throw rubbish on the Prophet's doorstep. And the Prophet wouldn't do that. But after some time, the Prophet has also gotten used to it. But at some point, there was no rubbish left on the Prophet's house's doorstep. And so this surprised the Prophet, and so he went to visit his neighbor. And he realized that the reason why there was no rubbish thrown that day is because the neighbor was ill. And so the Prophet visited the neighbor and supported the neighbor during their illness. And this shocked the neighbor and led to the neighbor becoming Muslim, because this is how the Prophet represented his character and said that the source of his morality and the source of his actions and his mercy is Islam, which Islam means to submit or to surrender. To surrender to what? To the essence of Islam, which is Tawhid, the Oneness. Or in other words, Allah, God. And so this mercy, this merciful act, I was fascinated by, because I felt like it moved something within me. And this is recurring stories that you find throughout Islam. But I felt like when looking at Muslims in general, not all Muslims have embodied this level of mercy. So clearly something was missing. The Muslim who does all of the mandatory requirements of the religion, which is to say the Shahada, to state that there is no God but Allah and that the Prophet is his final messenger, to pay zakat, pay the charity, to conduct the prayers, the 5 mandatory prayers every day, to fast, and then to go to Hajj, the pilgrimage. And these are essentially the 5 pillars of Islam as taught to most Muslim individuals. And so if you carry these 5 pillars with you and you conduct yourself in accordance to these 5 pillars, you are a Muslim and you are conducting yourself as a Muslim. But why is it then that this level of morality that is displayed by the Prophet himself and some of the companions, some of the family, why is it that they have occupied this level of mercy, this level of compassion, this level of generosity, yet I as a Muslim haven't? I who grew up and who has never missed a prayer in his life, who has never missed a day of fasting in his life, why am I not embodying this same character? And so I really wanted to dive deep into the very source of these characteristics, this mercy. Where does this mercy truly come from? This compassion, this deep, deep compassion that defies all egoic logic. Where does this really come from? And so many years later, I looked at other religions. I looked at Christianity, Judaism, Hinduism. I looked at Buddhism, Taoism, most known religions at the very least. And I realized that most of these religions have 2 sides to them. You have the deeper esoteric aspect of the religion, the deeper spiritual aspect of the religion, the core. And then you have the surface level of the religion. The surface level of the religion is, in essence, a formulation of many different rules that are to be obeyed and to be followed. This then considers you to be a part of this religion. But then the core itself, a minority usually looks at this. Not many people actually look at this, which is crazy because it's in the core that these rules have actually been manifested. It's from the core that the surface level has been manifested. And so diving deeper and deeper into the core of Islam and the other religions, I realized that actually the core is exactly the same. Every religion has a pointing towards oneness. Even many polytheistic religions that we know today, Hinduism, actually it has its pointings towards a divine oneness as well. The very concept of non-duality, Advaita Vedanta, is born out of or is in essence from Hinduism itself. So the essence of the religion itself is oneness as well. And this is the case with all, if not most, religions. And so this is why when you look at the characteristics of these individuals who have touched that core, touched the source of morality, touched this truth within Islam, if you look at their characteristics and look at other characteristics of individuals within other religions that people within Islam would push away, slander or disagree with, you notice that they have very similar characteristics. The level of forgiveness, compassion, if you look at the Buddha, the way the Buddha is portrayed, these characteristics are incredibly of a high level of morality, the level of compassion, the forgiveness. And then if you look at Christianity, when you look at Jesus Christ, the way Jesus Christ was portrayed as well. And so when you look at this, you realize that there's a core in the religion, and these people have come about to present to us the core, but have also shared with us the surface level of the religion, which is manifested in the form of rules. Because there is the realization that not all individuals are interested into diving into the core, really experiencing the core truth of the religion itself. And that, once again, is oneness, non-duality. Non-duality or oneness is a reality that one experiences in their lives, in every waking moment. It's a matter that is taking place regardless as to one is in its realization or not. It's a reality that is as it is regardless of any individual's opinions. It's a reality that has allowed opinions to even be expressed and known to man. This is the true core, the true essence of life, leaving aside the religions and cultures and all these different categories. The very essence of life is oneness. And so there's a beautiful verse in the Holy Quran which goes, وَلِلَّهِ الْمَشْرِقِ وَالْمَغْرِبِ فَأَيْنَمَا تَوَلَّوْا ثُمَّ وَجْهُ اللَّهِ إِنَّ اللَّهَ وَسِيعٌ عَلِيمٌ. For God is the west to the east, and wherever you turn. For God is the east to the west, and wherever you turn, you will find God's face. God is all-encompassing, all-knowing. And so this verse, which is considered the direct word of God to all Muslims, which in other words is the absolute truth to all Muslims. Why are we not living this in our everyday reality? Why is it that wherever we turn, we are not seeing God's face? And so these are reflections and meditations that if we ponder on those, something beautiful will begin to unlock in our lives. The Prophet himself said that an hour of meditation is greater than 70 years of worship, which actually takes us back to what I mentioned earlier, that conducting the religion based on just the surface level mandatory aspects of it, conducting the religion solely based on following its rules. This is prohibited, this is allowed, this is halal, this is haram. If we just conduct this religion on the basis of what is prohibited and what is allowed, what is a good deed and what is a bad deed, we will never touch its core. Prayer is one of these pillars. And so if we just satisfy these pillars and say, that's it, I'm a good Muslim now, we will never touch the truth. We will never touch the core. The core is to be realized and to be known in our everyday waking reality. We have to remove the veils from our eyes to really live this reality. And so really in this video, my attempt is to somehow inspire you to look at the core of Islam. But if you don't happen to be a Muslim, look at the core of your religion. I don't even know what religion your religion is, but I assure you that its core will lead you to oneness as well. Will lead you to the realization of this oneness. The Prophet's cousin and closest companion, and also the Prophet's son-in-law, Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib. This man has left behind, works and literature that is incredibly rare to find anywhere else. There was this one account where one of his companions of Imam Ali asked him, "Oh Ali, do you see God?" And so Ali responded saying, how can I worship that which I do not see? How would I worship that which I do not see? But be careful, it's not that you see him through direct vision of the eyes. It's that you see him through the truths of faith or the truths of reality. And so there is a recurring indication of this pointing towards oneness at all times. No matter where you look at in this literature, at the very least, if it's a story that isn't fundamentally about an esoteric aspect of the religion, you can see that the actions taking part in these stories and the characteristics that are expressed in these stories, they are sourced from the very reality, from the very knowing of the reality of oneness. Imam Ali himself says that before I do anything, I see God. Whilst I do things, I see God. And after I am done with doing things, I see God. God is to be known in your everyday life. God is very controversial to some individuals. You may find that you are not subscribed to any religion. It does not mean that this reality cannot unfold for you either. Religion itself is the stepping stone that allows you to witness reality. So let's not get too hooked up to discuss which religion is correct and which religion isn't. This is another problem that we get entangled with. I see all these different debates, these Hyde Park corner speakers and all these online debates. All it really is a flex of how much you can retain in terms of information and how much you can learn and then how much you can deliver once the debate is taking place. But oneness, Tawhid, non-duality, this truth is not something that can be debated. It's not something that needs to be debated. It's not something that you need to convince yourself in believing in. Which leads me to the next point. The Quran, the Holy Quran itself, or the religion of Islam itself, talks about the mu'mineen and the muttaqeen. the believers and the God conscious. Believing in something is very easy if you're convinced. But being God conscious is something that is beyond convincing. It's not something that you attain through being convinced. It's not something that you attain because you have become certain of a certain ideal. You've become certain of a situation. Going back to Imam Ali himself, he had this other account where he said that لو انكشف الغطاء لما ازددت يقينا. Even if the veils have been lifted, I would not increase in certainty. Does that sound like someone that is relying on a belief system alone? It's in his everyday waking life. But then there's this other problem where people say, yes, but you can never reach this individual. You can never reach the level of this individual, you know? This person is put on a pedestal. They are overly, they are honored and remembered so much and respected so much. But here's the thing, that if we put them so far away from us, so far from our reach, they themselves would have been disappointed in us because they themselves are presenting themselves in a way so that we can have a glimpse of this reality that they are living by. If we don't realize that they themselves are expressing themselves as the oneness, as the Tawhid that is in their everyday waking life, through the manifestation of their beautiful characteristics such as compassion, forgiveness, mercy, generosity, through these beautiful characteristics that are being sourced from their everyday waking reality of the oneness of life. They are made redundant. We have to realize this and stop putting these individuals so far high up on a pedestal where we can't actually learn from them anymore. This does not mean that we are trying to demote these individuals. Before you start to feel sensitive about this, this does not mean that we are trying to demote or devalue any of the surface level or the rulings of the religion or the jurisprudence of the religion. We are not trying to devalue any of these either. It's a beautiful system. But if you are interested in the truth itself, and the only truth that exists, where everything else manifested from it is a partial truth, then you've got to touch the core and not get too entangled by deciding what is right and wrong. We have to transcend the aspects of right and wrong. We have to not get entangled by how to do things perfectly correct. We have to transcend this. We have to know that which wants to be known. And that is God. That is that divine oneness. It wants to be known. وَنَحْنُ أَقْرَبُ إِلَيْكَ مِنْ حَبْلِ الْوَرِيدِ. And we are closer to you than your jugular vein. He who knows himself knows his Lord. The Prophet said this. He who knows himself knows his Lord. So the true essence of who you are is not the name given to you. It's not anything on your identity card. It's not any of the categories that we have subscribed ourselves into. Who you truly are is the witness of all of these things. The very non-dual focal point within you, the sense of being, the sense of existence, the pure consciousness, the pure awareness. If we want to really touch the truth of God and know God and see God's face wherever we turn, we have to find God's characteristics within ourselves. God that is not bound by time, God that is ever present, God that is not localized in one particular space or a position. We have to look at God's characteristics and find them within ourselves. And once you do, you will have touched the truth. You will have touched oneness. Now, I go into more depths into non-duality and how to experience this in further depths. And this is really a conversation that you would want to be ready for. And it can be an uncomfortable process of investigation for a lot of people. But rest assured that when discomfort is felt, you are on the right track. The discomfort is coming because we are slowly chiseling away the rigidity and the crystallization of conditioning that is occupying, our eyes with a lens through which we see a distorted reality, through which we see only separation between me and you. But if we remove this lens, we realize that there is no me and you. There just is. There's just oneness. So if you really want to dive deeper into non-duality and what a non-dual awakening looks like, I really recommend that you watch this video here. But if I've mentioned anything in this video that may come across as blasphemous or that you do not like, shoot me a message, comment, let's have a conversation about this. Thank you so much for watching. This is Hassan from The Spiritual Walks, and we are all on a journey towards the truth.